There is an unwritten rule enshrined in the YouTube landscape. You must unconditionally love India, because no matter how powerful or self-important you feel as a YouTuber, you bow to the same tech center in New Delhi, and you live by their mercy, because with a single click, Rakesh and Pajit can evaporate your entire existence. My channel is firmly aligned with Lord Ganesha and the Indian people, for your tech support is now your tech master. Hey people, Seth here. Warlords Battlecry Free is a 20-year-old fantasy RTS that I've been psyoped into playing. Appropriately, we'll be playing this on my laptop, which may be described as a haphazard collection of live wires that'll shock you if you ever touch the top of it, but personally, I like to call it rustic. Many years ago, it stopped working until I dug up the instruction manual and ripped out the thermal sensor. This is incredibly safe. Don't let the warped Avril Lavigne and Eminem stickers tell you otherwise. It can no longer support a battery, and I jury-rigged a new power switch because I broke the old one. But hey, it's got excellent airflow, and the exposed left speaker is a fun and entertaining fidget toy for all to enjoy. Just as long as you don't move it, touch it, and whatever you do, don't put it on your lap, because that's how you get burns. It's a piece of shit that served me well. You know what else has served me well? My sponsor, who keeps rewriting all of my lines. Hey gang, tell me something. Do you like being spied on? Being watched? Having every single move you make cataloged and sold off to the highest bidder? Sound familiar? It should, because if you're located in a land of the free, home of the profits, that's right, the US of A, that's exactly what your ISP is doing right now. It's true, your star-spangled corporate overlords are actually allowed to store logs of every website you visit, and it is their legal right to sell your data to anyone. That's why I use ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN reroutes your internet connection through their secure encrypted servers, so your internet provider, Uncle Sam, or your own local elected officials can't see or log what you do online. Now, I know what you're thinking. No, not that. A new problem. What's stopping the VPN from logging your data instead? I'll tell you. Integrity. Many VPNs claim to have a no-logs policy, but then get caught logging their customers' data. ExpressVPN is the only VPN I can trust because they use trusted server technology. In fact, they were the first major VPN to have servers that run entirely off RAM, making it impossible for them to log your data. But why take my word for it? ExpressVPN is so confident in their no-logs claim, they even had one of the world's biggest assurance firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers, audit their privacy policy and server technology. Now that's what I call integrity. Stop those pesky loggers in their tracks and download ExpressVPN today, and visit expressvpn.com/Seth to find out how you can get 3 months for free. Also, turns out everything I did before was completely unnecessary because this game works on Windows 10. The early 2000s gave us a lot of RTS games, and a lot of them played exactly the same. Mechanics were so standard that no one deviated from the orthodoxy. It was only later that the genre had its theological schism, resulting in squad-based RTS and eventually culminating in what's known as the League of Legends heresy that plagues us to this very day. Warlords Battlecry Free is no different. It's Age of Empires, except the Turks have a much more accurate depiction. You collect resources, build buildings, produce troops, and crush your enemy. There's nothing entirely unique here, except your hero, of which there are 28 different classes and 17 different races. Anything this game lacks in originality, it makes up for with a sheer volume of content. And the main way to experience this is through the campaign, which is largely a multi-choice sandbox where you travel across the land looking for an excuse to kill someone. Story.
You play as a cosmic ICE agent, receiving a report that Gorgon, fifth horseman of the apocalypse, has illegally crossed the Etherian border with intent to cut grass for $7 an hour as an undocumented illegal. We can't let this go on, so we ask the dark dwarves, that's not racist, they're dwarves of color, to cast Earthquake on his illegal encampment and seal him inside for all eternity.
There's absolutely no consequence to ignoring the story, and even if you finish it, you get a pop-up saying, Gorgon has been sealed, now go explore. There's no conclusion, no final battle, and you don't even get to see him. This is the literary equivalent of a toddler starting a sentence, forgetting where he was, and going to sleep. And just as well, because story is not the focus. By far, the best part of this game is the community, which is extremely passionate, to say the least. You'll have people in comments saying things like, Death Knight is the best, and immediately Immediately, someone will come out of a woodwork, proclaim that their Fey assassin is going to one-tap them, and question the fidelity of their parents' marriage. Which brings us to the focus of my hyperfixation, finding, objectively, the best build in a game that's popular with a 10 or so Polish men that still play it. In the process, I'll talk about each race.
What do you say, Gav?
The Celentine Empire is a race that answers the question of, what do we have with whatever you want? Because apparently, the only barrier between recruiting demons and vampires to join your ranks is socioeconomic. They can pay for random mercenaries that give a taste of every race, their tech tree is sensible, and they have access to spell research, which, if you stall the mission, unlocks every spell in the game. Alchemist specializes in alchemy, which is the original reason I got into this game, because the very first spell you get, cast at a high enough level, creates max level items out of thin air. This includes set items that are unique to the campaign. This leads to a situation where you spawn in, drink your mana pots, print everything you want, and resign the mission. Everything in your hero's backpack is saved, which can be sold in the market for infinite money to spend on infinite supplies and reinforcements. And then we go from ridiculous to game-breaking by casting Spellforge, which doubles the effect of all your items, turning your alchemist into the strongest unit in the game. Shenanigans include, but are not limited to, having armor so high you can't take damage, doubling your mana regeneration to fill up in seconds, to abusing double rings of resurrection for a 40% chance to revive your entire army each time you take a swing.
I have the body of a god!
Barbarians are a fine race. You can set them on fire to go berserk. They're cheap, spammable, and effective against larger units. Regardless of class, all heroes are melee. The only exception is an ice mage, who can give himself ranged attacks by casting Ice Flow. This represents my first failed experiment because the investment is massive and the payoff is garbage. Everything ice magic does, pyromancy does better. And who better for it than a demon?
Blood heals me, death delights me, pain purifies me.
Demons are resource hungry and have some of the most obnoxious hitboxes for their buildings. But if you survive to late game, you automatically win because you're the only race that doesn't pay for troops. More importantly, demon heroes snack on souls, which are formed by enemies after being killed by a succubus. This is the quickest way to get mana, and with the right items, I can summon my own army of them and use them as a self-sustaining mana battery. Combine that with pyromancy, and every free souls you chow down is another Armageddon inside your enemy's base. It's my sincere opinion that the funnest build in this game is a necromancer, but since we already get necromancy as an undead racial, we play a sage for reasons that I shall explain.
From dust we come, to dust we go.
Undead are one of the most unique races in this game because they don't make their own troops. Instead, you have skeletons, which can be morphed at any time into a higher tier unit along different upgrade paths. One of these is the Wraith,
For you, my lord.
which may be the earliest example of ASMR. Wraiths are the only unit in the game that directly steal XP from units they kill, which includes heroes and even your own troops. So we summon skeletons, which with a memory skill spawn with extra XP, sacrifice them to our Wraith, and grind it to level 20. 2 max level Wraiths are usually enough to solo the entire campaign. But why stop there? Using divination magic, we can cast Mind Leech, which gives affected melee troops the exact same ability as the Wraith. Zombies have access to Feast of Gorak, an ability that converts dead bodies into resources. As wiki users pointed out, unit abilities scale with level. So we summon a horde of skeletons, mind leech our zombie, and grind him to level 20. If we summon thralls from a cage, delete them with Ctrl D and feast their bodies, he prints out more resources than we originally put in. By having an infinite money printer and infinite power scaling, we're no longer playing the same game. Victory is no longer the objective, but rather a natural consequence of leaving my max level Doom Knight unattended.
I am invincible!
Fae are whimsical creatures of the forest, and a growing problem because of their built-in victory timer. That's because lore is the most busted research in the game. They're also a cognito hazard,
Top of the morning to you.
in a sense that the longer you hear them, the longer you can't unhear them. At some point, you'll be producing troops so fast, they'll be spamming their voice lines in unison. This is when most players are driven insane. Imagine a hero that can outrun and insta-kill any unit in the game. Now imagine they also have access to illusion magic and can make themselves invisible. There's many builds out there, and assassins counter all of them.
Breathe deeply.
Plague Lords are the servants of King Ass Ripper, a direct manifestation of anything that lives or survives the Indian sewage system. They have a contamination mechanic that accelerates disease. Unfortunately, the condition is only useful for punishing retreats and doesn't really help you during a fight. That doesn't mean you can't make them work. A ranger can stack points into taming, which adds XP to every unit considered a monster. For Plague Lords, this definition applies to almost everything, which is never relevant because you'll win the game by spamming slimes. After each mission, you get a selection of your most veteran troops that you can add to your retinue. Since this will always be slimes, I find it incredibly funny because along with their veterancy, they get a name. It's no longer just a slime. It's Frederick. Also, I never checked which voice lines I gave my ranger, which is apparently
Lock up your children.
Discord moderator. The Serathi are lizard men with dinosaurs. These are the old depictions before people realized that God just made oversized chickens. A defiler can poison everyone and then cast rot for it to take maximum effect. This translates to an instantaneous loss of 90% of the enemy's HP and a guaranteed win for every fight, unless they're fighting orcs who are completely immune.
Scream louder!
Orcs are a melee race possessing the goofiest siege weapon in the game, the Gob Shooter. The Gob Shooter shoots goblins, which often die from the impact, but occasionally survive as intact goblins. They're not even remotely viable unless you play a merchant. Merchants do absolutely nothing except sit at the back of a base and hope they don't get murdered. The trade-off is that the merchant skill and charisma reduce the cost of everything. You can play almost any race of merchant. I just have so many spellcasters to cover that I needed a place to put this.
I love the smell of entrails in the morning.
Dwarves are the ideal race for turtling. Their engineers count as 2 workers each time they occupy a mine, and they have a rush mechanic that revolves around excess drinking. Do you like gambling? Do you like griefing yourself? Because playing a shaman is the ultimate gamble core experience. Remember, 99% quit before they win big. And the higher your skill in chaos magic, the higher the roll in both directions. So you either double your stats or reduce your army's HP to 1 and rage quit the game. There is no in between. Either I win or I kill myself. However, you can't go lower than 1, so if you morph the speed of dwarf berserkers or siege equipment, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. The most important feature of playing dwarves is that they have the best towers in the game and benefit twice as much from garrisoned troops. And now, thanks to the power of RNG, they've become automatic machine guns that cut down entire armies. It's not the quickest strategy, but it's the only one that turns this game into a tower defense.
Burn the forests. Strip the land.
Alternatively, you can do pretty much the same with Dark Dwarves. They're more siege-focused than their counterparts and replace their armies with golems. Because their basic builder can instantly repair for free, your towers are practically invincible. And in the event they do actually go down, you occupy them with suicide bombers that kill whoever's responsible. A Rune Master lets you build quicker and absolutely nothing else. Rune magic might actually be worse than ice.
Nobody expects the Ethereal Inquisition.
Knights are a cavalry-centric race that's very beginner-friendly. Night Lords are goofy because they give you global morale, which makes every unit attack faster and increases your population cap. I didn't know that last part, which is actually very important for summoners. Buildings are your main source of pop cap, but in some missions, you can't build. So it's worth having a few points in leadership, because otherwise, you might not be able to summon anything. After teching up to level 5, every race can produce their Titan. These are incredibly powerful units that can't be replaced, and the only thing comparable to their power is another Titan. After sinking 30 levels into healing magic, a healer can cast Resurrection at level 3. Normally, this revives your dead units. At level 3, this revives everything, including the enemy and their Titan, under your direct control. Elves are collectively a gimmick race designed to filter new players. And there's a very simple reason. Their builders can't occupy mines. Dark Elves at least have a solution to this problem, and it's called slavery. They're the most magically proficient race with a broad range of spellcasters. Assassins can one-tap enemies, blackguards can do sneak attacks, and their heroes have some of the most photogenic portraits. Dark Elf baddie with blood running down her eyes will captivate the undisciplined gamer. Men enjoy the goth girl aesthetic because it represents a woman that's externally consistent with her inner state. That is to say, evil. Druids get a lot of summons. Treants are good tanks and faster builders, while unicorns compensate for the race's complete lack of healing. Nature magic isn't insanely powerful, but it's a good mix of everything.
Let lesser races beware.
Endowed with long life and extreme prejudice, which they describe as pattern recognition, high elves are the canonical quirked-up white boys of Etheria. There's something very poetic about high elves refusing lower-class labor, preferring that I summon hordes of demons to occupy their minds instead. A summoner is not only the perfect complement to elves, it's the only one that's viable, because we need to gate in a lot of demons to give them time to execute their strategy. All elves produce wisps, which are their basic builder. 4 of these can merge together to form an ancient wisp, which generates crystal each second. The whole point of this race is the endless feedback loop of infinite crystal economy, which only accelerates the longer the game goes. Then you make a bunch of archers and steamroll everything, because a fully upgraded high elf army has almost no answer to it.
I've been a bad girl.
Wood elves are practically the same race, but worse. They have the same problems, but bulkier buildings. Their only saving grace is the Dryad, which is the source of all the horny quotes in the game.
Oh, yes. Do that again.
But what if I told you, after theory crafting all of these numerous, diverse, and interesting builds, I've been bell curved, because the lowest IQ knuckle dragger will reach the same conclusion as the upper percentile. Just play a warrior. Everything a mage can do, a warrior does better. It's in the name of the title. It's called Warlords Battlecry Free, not neurodivergent caster that needs 30 levels to get good. Who cares about your exploits when the average warrior will just click a corner of a map and solo the entire mission? His only weakness is running out of health potions, which is why you play a Minotaur. Minotaurs have some of the fewest but most upgradable units in the game, but most importantly, they have sheep. Sheep cost 1 gold per unit and can be snacked on by minotaurs to restore their health. So, we flood the map with a portable health supply for your one-man army. If you're playing this correctly, you should be able to see absolutely nothing. However, after everything I've been through, I refused to accept this answer. There had to be something better. There must. And I think I found it. Coincidentally, Swarm is the first race I ever played because I thought the name sounded cool. And what did I get? Ants. But regardless, we play Swarm because their race have access to Constitution, which adds 10 HP per level. Class doesn't matter, just any caster that has access to arcane magic. And now we create the most hyper-specific build possible. 10 points in arcane and dump the rest into Constitution. You need exactly 31 points of intelligence, which gives you 113 mana. The rest goes to dexterity because we are pathetically weak and need to outrun the enemy. We require the following items: 2 Fey Harps, a Wizard's Banner, a Staff of a Master, a Robe of the Archmage, and most importantly, a Paladin's Helm. First, we cast Mana Flow, which stacks with the 2 harps to give us 45% reduced spell cost. Then you cast Empower, which increases spell strength by 50%, and Command, which stacks with a Wizard's Banner to increase our area of effect. Destruction is the last spell of the Arcane Spellbook that deals the spellcaster's current HP -1 to everything on screen, including the caster. But because we empowered it, we deal 150% of our HP, which kills us in the process. Unless you're under the effect of Life Ward, a healing spell that saves the caster from death. People found out about this, multiplayer was instantly broken, and it was patched out of the game, because Healer no longer has access to Arcane. That is, unless you're wearing a Paladin's Helm, which has an on-hit chance of casting Life Ward. So we start the game, build a wall, get our hero to attack the wall, and charge his Paladin's Helm. Then we walk up to the enemy, cast Destruction, and walk back with full HP. At level 48 with 610 HP, you can one-shot the strongest Titan in the game. But is it worth it? No. I did all this so I can cast one spell, one time, and then have to wait like 10 minutes before I can do it again. I've rationalized myself into a corner, and I'm back to the middle of a bell curve. What have we learned today? Overthinking a 2004 RTS is the peak of being a midwit. Increases your risk of writing video essays, and accelerates your Alzheimer's by expanding the Swiss cheese in your brain. In high school, we used to choke each other out during art class to get high. This went on for a while, until the teacher caught us. I guess what I'm trying to say with this is, Warlords Battlecry Free is great, mindless fun. And I say this objectively because I have no prior nostalgia. There's clearly a lot of love and passion put into the making of this game. There's little details that still surprise me, like how you can load cows as catapult ammunition, which give this game a lot of charm. The voice acting is hammy, the music is beautiful, and the campaign is very replayable. Unfortunately, sometimes the game does crash. This often happens when crossing regions. You get a random encounter and it fails to build the random map. map. If this happens, play a skirmish or move backwards on the map, and this will usually fix it. I thoroughly recommend that you don't buy it on Steam. GOG uses official patch 1.0 free, while Steam uses the unofficial patch, which made a very unpopular change. All summoned units come with a timer, and when this expires, they die. This completely destroys a lot of builds, so for the sake of your enjoyment, get a copy from GOG. Use offer code ChastityCage for 45% off. There should be a sale, and if there isn't, I'll personally send you a free download link. Your graphics card may run a little hotter than usual, but I assure you, my Ethereum miner will take no more than 10%. As always, more content to come, so stay tuned. A warm thanks to the many members of the Merchants Guild generously funding and bankrolling these videos. You're all truly wonderful. Have a good one.
Shin Tendolkar to Virat Kohli.